You with that Andrew on that cash, on that mission, on that gas to that move, on that homestead with that value, on that Booker T with that senior, on that 5 star to that motion, on that gas with that movement with it though, on that quarterback, on that compute, on that 100 with that move, on that gas to that mission, on that stash to that 100, on that move with that private jet with that money, on that cash with the mission, on that coach with that value, the 100 with the move, on that dolphin with the gas, on the stash with the LA with the Rams on the view. That 100 on that mission, man. That hoop on that gas, that stash to that move, that gas that's compute with that KD, that greatest to ever do it on that value. That 100 on that hurricane on that Andrew. Walking down the movement on the cash with the 100 on that movement with that money. On that cash with the value. Stashing all the way through the water system with the move. A cash with a mission. A stash with Apple. A Starbucks value. 100 on the move. A gas, a pitching, a motherfucking FW to the movement, a Amazon Prime, a Jeff Bezos sale with it on the real estate with the willows, on the cash to the diamond, the values of a Bitcoin. I could never ask a movement to the pack a gas without throwing a pass, and there wouldn't be an air hole. The value at a step, the movements as a luau, the gas with the speeds, the arm with the values towards the steps of the diamond of the cheese. The values of a mission, a gas, 100. Talking about cash is on that money on that mission. Running off with that private jet on that gas on that 100. That star player with it, that gas to that money. That mission, that Stafford, that Matthew, that move. That bank account to that Elon Musk with that value. That cash to that mission, to that value, to that steps, to that mission. That Star Island to that gas. That signature move, that's compute within the value, that 100 plugging in the move, that gas to that mission, to that stash, to that 100 with it. On the packs to the gas, 100 with a mission, Avenue Cribs on the gas, on the stash with the riches, that live with that 100, that motion with that Sony, that motion with that flick to that money, that cash to that 100 with that Google, that value to that step with that gas, on that move with that cash. I couldn't do nothing but quarterback that move with that stash, throw that move to that mission, to that pass, to that 100 of that franchise of that move, on that cash to that hundreds, and the cash with that movement of that franchise of that mission, within that King Solomon, on that mission with that Muhammad, on that cash to that move, on that value with that step, that cash with that dealership, that movement with that pass to that mission of them fives with that movement. A lot of cars on Ferrari, a pack with the movement, a DJ T toys with the gas, 100s on the mission, the numbers with the pass, the 100s on the mission with the end zone, the air holes on every pass to the gas, within stashing to every movement though. At a mission with the rock hard, the gas with the move, the values at the 100s of the Ford Center, the packs of the gas with that money on that pack with that movement, on that cash with that 100, number one of all time. We talking about rings, we talking about a company, we talking about money here, that mission. I couldn't do nothing but be a gas to that movement and run off with my private jet with my money and my meta values to that 100, with that Willows property and that Jeff Bezos to that move, and have a value to that step within that movement, on that gas to that mission, on that pickup to that gas, on that IMG, on that cash, to that hundreds, to that mission, to that value, to that stash, to that 100, to that movement, to that atmosphere with it, on the cash to the 100, on the pickup with the money, on the values with the team, on the gas, huddling up, on the cash, on the movement, on the move, or to the value, on the cash, Uncle Tookie, the values to the 100, the gas to the money, on the hundreds with the move, the values at gassing, on the mission with the cash, going through a movement as a move on the gas to the hundreds, on that tuss of money, man, that private jet to that mission, that cash with that mailman, that pack with that 100, that money pro with it, on that cash with that independence hall, on that value we're getting it all, that compute value, that cash to that move, that throw to that avenue of that pitch with that gas, that home run with that value, that Otani with that blast, that 100 with that mission, that cash on that move with that Zen business, on that cash with that sting, that harness with that ring, on that mission flying out on the cash to the hundreds on the gas with that team. The values of a step, a senior, emotion, a pack with the move, a gas with a MasterCard on the packs with the values, on that Willis tax on that foul, that typo with that apple on that cash with that rounds, on that hundreds on the mission, going to cash with the cannon on the cash, non-stop on the gas, on that TD bank on the hundreds with it, a value to the cash with the motion, on that money on that mission, on that cash to the hundreds on the move like Secret Service on that last, that hundreds with that shot on that move with that class on that plot, on the gas with a move, the packs with the Bitcoin at the value, the hundreds at a mission that compute at the gas with that Washington, on that pack to the T on that motion with that company, that WAA on that mission on that gas to that hundreds with that F on that cash with that money, that value to the extension with that move, that cash with that hundreds, that hitting Bitcoin to the avenue with that money, that values of that step to that mission, that cash to that movement with them Johnson Johnsons as a value on the steps with the Palm Island, the hundreds as a move, as a value, as a mission, gas into the hundreds on the pack, on the cash, non-stop on the gas, on the steps to the movement, on that entrance, on that move, on that BLT values, on that structure, on that cash with a Bob the Builder, a gas with a movement to the cash to the hundreds, to that Southwest on that pack with that money on that value, that hundreds on that mission, that cash, that move, that gas, that huddle up with it, that packs to the gas, that hundreds mission, that Robin Hood to that stash, that move to that last, that hundred with that Chase Bank, that value to that gas, to that movement, to every steps on the movement, on SpaceX, the mission of the Microsoft, the gases of the Apple, the packs of the movement of Tesla, the movements of the quarterback on the gas, the hundreds on the mission, on the packs with the Leafs, on the cash, on the move, with that plastic on that value, that hundreds on that gas, that Caterpillar on that last, that stash on that movement, that Ford Center with that glass to that value, that hundreds on the mission, that 9 to 5 on that cash, on that stash with that pitching, that values of that throw, that hundreds on that move, that cash with the running backs on the gas, on the JetBlue, the hundreds on the move, the values that getting it, the structures of the value to that money shower, on that cash, on that move, that value of that step with that league, to that value on the mission, stashes on the cash on Tom Brady, that hundreds on that movement on that Bitcoin, that Coinbase, that hundreds on the gas on American Great, that hundred on that move, that gas to that podcast on that value, that move on that step, that gas to that mission, getting it to its hot on the cash, on them TDs on the cash, non-stop rings, non-stop wins on the cash, on the move as compute, the gas to the pack on the gas, with a pack that's a gas to a move. The packet of getting it within Emmitt Smith, the gases with the gases towards the flips within the hundreds, towards the movements of the touchdowns on that money, on that values of that steps, on that way I walk it out on that Ferrari, that pack on that mission, that Bugatti, that pass on that mission within that 5 of them keys, that motions of that rent within bringing it in, on the cash to the hundreds on the gas, on the move of that pack with that money, on that motion with that move or that funny, that pack of that gas to that move, that pack to that view, that value with that step or that mission, that crypto with that pass, that hundreds with that gas, that catch, that movement, on point on the ear hole, on the cash, on mission, on the stash with every move, on the cash, on the packs with it, that cash with that hundred, that packs, that movement, that shooting it to its hot with that money, that cash to a mission, on the gas with 100, that packs on that SpaceX with that money, that movement to that value, that honey to that gas, that movement, that so thumb on the backs on the movement, switching up on the bags on the hundreds on the mission, stashing on the hundreds on the gas with it, on that move with that backhoe, that gas to that movement, on that steps on that mission, on that cash flying out though, on that mission to that move, on that last, to that hundreds on that mission, on that throwing it up, on the throwing it up, on the jack 'em up with it, on the hundreds on the movement, on that market, that cap, that values to that strap, on the cash with the hundreds, that AK with that money, on that value, on that nuclear, on that missile, On that pack to that hundred, to that value, to that stash, to that movement. On that cash to that mission. Counting up on the gas daily, on the hundreds paid, on the movement, on the value, on the stash, on the worth, on the mission, on the gas, on stepping, on cashes, on ICBC, on the cane with it, on the hundreds, on the mission, on Andrew, on the stash to the motion, on that luau move. 100 set of value on the stash with the speed. 100 set of gas at motion. A structure on the move.